Hey friends, Kenny Jang here with Church Tech Today. We've got another session interviewing one of the leaders in the industry, bringing you practical, tactical advice. We sent out a survey to the readers. By the way, if you're not on our email list, you need to get to our website at Church Tech Today and sign up. We do a lot of resourcing, a lot of things not on the site. But one of the recent surveys talked about engagement, digital ministry, and things like the topic that we're going to bring up today. And I've brought on Tyler Smith, founder and CEO of Text in Church. Welcome to the program, Tyler.
Hey, Kenny, thanks for having me. It's awesome to get to chat with you. I'm excited.
So one of the things that I admire about your company is that your mission is really to help the church engage with the community. It's not just about all these other random metrics, but real about people, like getting people in
Yeah.
communication with each other.
Yep.
Can you just share with us like the origin story or where you're coming from? Like, tell us the mission and the purpose that you guys have on your team.
Yeah. So Tech the Church sets out to just do one thing. We believe that church communication shouldn't be difficult, and so
Mm.
we're building tools to help to facilitate church leaders engaging with their community. And so that starts on websites, and it extends all the way through the life of onboarding a first time guest. So doing guest follow up, onboarding volunteers, and nurturing volunteers, all the way to member engagement. And so we try to walk alongside in that journey, helping church leaders to navigate the ever changing technology that's before us, so that we can leverage technology to reach more people.
I love it. I love it. Now, one of the things that from the outsider's point of view, um, text in church kind of seems like just a texting solution, like a group texting. I've got small groups. I want to text them. I want to tell my church about a church picnic, etc. But really, in reality, you've built a whole tool set. It's kind of like a Swiss Army knife. In fact, you're not limited to just texting in communicating with the people, right?
Yeah, that's correct. We do texting, we do emails, we do reminder messages. So like for guest follow up, for example, it's important that you send some text messages to a first time guest, but also it's really important that we're sending emails to them. So we have an automated workflow that's going to send emails and text. But I think just as important, maybe more so important, is that we're also sending reminder messages to somebody on staff saying, "Hey, pick up the phone and call this person. They were a
Ah,
guest on this weekend." Or, "Hey, we have their address. Go and deliver a coffee mug or some kind of gift to their home." Or write them a handwritten note. Like all of those personal touches go a really long way. One of the things that we sometimes get beat up for is sometimes people interpret that what we're doing is trying to leverage technology so that we don't have to do human interaction. Um, that's not at all what we set out to do.
yeah.
And in fact, I think when used correctly, technology facilitates human interaction, right? So I think there's a huge difference there. The entire purpose of text in church is so that we can engage with people, and we can do it in an offline way or online way, and then we can convert that into online or in-person communication. So I think there definitely needs to be a hybrid approach.
I love it. I feel like that's a little bit of the it's like a ninja secret. The world needs to know more about all these other things that you guys are doing, that workflow automation, the fact
Yeah.
that, and just to clarify, it's not that you're controlling my MailChimp account or my Active Campaign account, right? Like all that is actually within the Text and Church system.
Yeah, that's correct. So within an automated workflow, you have the ability to go and set up emails to send at a particular time to particular people. We're just simply helping you to send the right message to the right person at the right time, so that you can and then engage in conversation, right? So the end goal is not to just send out messages. The end goal is to get replies. And then that's an opportunity to do ministry. Like that's our tool is a ministry tool. We want to engage with people so we can have authentic conversations. And then from those conversations, grow relationships. And we know that relationships is with people oftentimes will bring someone back to church so that they can then grow a relationship with Christ.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Now, recently, I wrote an article about just three things that every church website needs, and I said, hey, you need analytics because you got to know what's happening in order to figure out what decisions to make. And then I said you need a give button to actually fund your mission, to be able to do
Yep.
more with the community. And the third one was you need a way to actually engage and get opt-ins, to build your email list, to build your texting list, to actually get people to respond
Yeah.
on your website. That a website shouldn't be, it's the front door of our church, but it shouldn't just be a poster or a brochure. And I'd love to center around one offering that you guys do, again, that is a little bit of like your secret sauce. It's the plan your visit function. That thing, I think, is something that every single church website should have. And what you've done, I think, from again, from a third party point of view, outsider, you've actually dumbed down the technology so it's like really stupid simple to implement,
Yeah.
and then integrated into that workflow. So I'm wondering if we could just like nerd out just a little bit on
Yeah.
plan your visit, if that's okay. Is it okay? Can you? I don't know if you have an example website that you can show us,
Yeah.
just so that everyone here, they might not have heard what a plan your visit thing is. So if you could just walk us through. So this is great. So there's a
Yeah.
church website here.
So yeah, so this is just a demo website here. So a regular old website, but notice up here at the top, it says you're invited to Hope City Church, plan a visit. So that's a button that people can click. Down here, there's another opportunity to plan my visit. There's a chat bubble. Hi there, welcome to City Church. Can I help you plan a visit? So all those are our engagement tools, because what we know is, you just said it a minute ago, that our website serves as the front door oftentimes to our church. Well, if you don't have a way to engage with them, you have people that are coming to your website, and stats tell us there's over 17 million unchurched people who visit church websites every year. And they're coming and they're knocking on your door, and then no one's home. No one's answering that call. So what we want to do is just make it really easy. So we can put a plan a visit widget right here on your site. So when you click that button, or you click any of those buttons, it's going to pop up this form right here. And so you can include a video here that's going to tell a little bit about your church, what they can expect. And then it's simple. All you're going to do is now we're just going to gather some information. So we're going to get their contact information. And as we go through here, let's see here. So as we gather all this, what we're going to do now is we're walking them through this, right? So we just collected their name, we collected their email. Now we're going to get a cell phone number. We also have the ability to pre-register children, right?
Wow.
So if this is a young family that's coming, it might be helpful for us to know who are their kids, so we could get them already plugged into whatever kids ministry tool you're using. So whatever your check-in process is.
Our family ministry team and volunteers would love to know that.
Yeah, because it's huge, because now you can be prepared for them, right? So like in my family, my kids are very, very introverted. Like going to church for the first time is one of the worst experiences they can have, because it's all new to them. And then they're going to get left, and mommy and daddy are going to leave. And so that's frightening to them. So what we can do is we can help prepare. So when the church has my children's names, they can now start some of those conversations and can make that easier on mom and dad to be able to transfer some of that to our kids. So in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and skip it, but you can absolutely do that. And then you get to choose, okay, now which service are you going to attend? So if you have multi-campuses, or if you have multiple services, you can have this question in here. You don't have to. You get to, just tab and add questions or not. And then the last thing is, now you're done. So what will happen is, now all of that information that we just gathered, that is going to get added into Text in Church. So we just collected all of their information, and collecting information is good, but what is much better is then using that information to actually engage with them. So right now, Text in Church is kind of churning through all that information. And in just a moment, it's going to send out a text message thanking me for planning my visit. And then beyond that, the next thing it's going to do is it's going to send a reminder message to someone on staff saying, whoa, pick up the phone. We just had someone plan the visit. Their name is Tyler Smith. Here's what their kids' names are. Here's their phone number. And now we have someone from our church calling this person right now. Because here's what we know is so many people with the best of intentions will fill out a plan a visit form, or they will visit a website. This weekend, we haven't been to church in 4 years, but this weekend we are going, right? We're committed. But it's only Friday, and Sunday's still 2 more days away. And by the time Sunday rolls around, other things have come up, and you know what? We'll go next week or next month or next year. And so what we want to do is engage with them, have conversation, because once we start to build relationship with them, they're so much more likely to come back. They have now made a really small commitment that, hey, I'm going to be there. But now if Kenny, if you pick up the phone and you talk to this family on the phone, and you tell them how excited you are to get to meet their children that are going to be coming, let them know what's going to happen. Hey, we have special parking. When you guys get here, we do allow coffee in the sanctuary, and that's totally great. So grab some coffee, come on inside. It's super informal or it's super formal. Like whatever those things are, you can help prepare them so that when they get there, it feels like home. A lot of churches will actually even put a video right here on this thank you page, so they can say, like, here's what to expect. So they can see that, they can envision that. There's some churches we see that actually do a video showing them a family like parking the car, walking in the building, like navigating. So here's where our kids ministry is. Now we're going to come back down to the sanctuary. Like all of those things can just build familiarity and just make life so much easier
And so
as we step through that.
Just to clarify, there was a spot for a welcome video, so you can have the pastor or somebody,
Yep.
well, thank you for choosing to visit us, etc. And then you can have a second video at the end.
That's right.
Telling them what to expect. That's another option.
Yeah, you have absolute control over that. Another thing you can do is, this is confusing stuff, right? Being able to get a form, gather information, then put it into a system. What we recognize is that is hard, and it takes a lot of tools, kind of all tethered together, duct taping them all together, and you can do this. You can absolutely do this on your own. But what we want to do is to make it just seamless, so that with just literally a couple clicks of the button, you can build this entire thing out. So with just a few clicks, you now can have that welcome video on there. You can have the thank you video on the last page. You can also redirect this to another page on your website. So maybe you're like, you know what? I don't want this happening just on that one little side panel. Instead, I want it to take over to our new here page. And so we're going to direct people over there. And that's something else you can do is we saw on that home page that we were looking at that we had a couple different button options of how you could start to plan your visit. Like on your new here page, that would be a place where you want to have several calls to action of, hey, plan your visit here. On your homepage, you probably want a couple, but you don't need a million of them. But when they're on the new here page, they have identified themselves as a person or a family that is interested in checking out your church. And so we owe it to them to gather their information, to follow up with them, to reach out, to let them know that they're known and they're noticed and they're loved. Because when we do that, we know they're so much more likely to come and actually engage in worship with us.
That's pretty amazing. Now, you have experience with, I think, hundreds, if not thousands of churches that have implemented your systems. I'd love for you to go through, we were pre-interview, you were talking to me about just some simple ways that plan your visit itself is increasing the first-time church guest attendance. Like it's changing perception, it's changing. So can we go through a couple of those benefits of why it's important to think about using a plan your visit option on the website?
Yeah, so I think the first thing that it helps to do is to change or to influence the perception of someone who's visiting your website for the first time. So they're on your website and they've probably potentially been on other websites, or maybe a friend recommended they go and check it out. And when they see that button that says ready to plan your visit and they click that button, what that's telling them psychologically is, hey, there's space for me here. These people actually want me to come. Because as an outsider to church, so often it's scary, it's frightening to step into church for the first time or to back into church. And so what we want to do is to help them understand, like, hey, you're welcome here. And we're expecting you. We're prepared for you. And so I think that's a really, really big one. Because what it then leads to is the second point that we were talking about, is that you can actually change their experience on Sunday. Right? Because now if we have gathered their contact information, we know their children's names, we can already have them plugged in to our children's check-in. So when they get there, we could already have the stickers printed out for them. We could be as prepared as we want. There's a lot of churches we work with, when someone plans a visit, they will actually have a sign out front in a parking spot that is for the Smith family, because they know the Smith family is coming. Or they will have at their hospitality booth, rather than just having a bunch of generic gifts that they're going to give away to first-time guests, they'll have one that has a sticky note on it that says, to the Smith family.
That's
right?
A good idea.
They mass produced them. They were all just sitting there, but all they did was just add a little note that said, so excited that the Smiths joined us, or to Zach and Elizabeth. Personalize it in these little tiny ways, and that can influence, that can change their experience then on Sunday. So we want to start by changing their perception, and then we move that right into changing their actual experience, because that can be a big game changer.
And like you said before, you could automate that where someone does a plan your visit, that then the person who's in charge of those welcome bags, the welcome desk, gets a text or a message, so that it's not this big production, but you're saying it actually could be automated, right?
Yeah, fully automated, so that there's one person who knows that the Smiths were coming. They prepare that, and in the ideal world, the Smiths actually show up and they hand it to them, and it's this awesome experience. Or there's also the scenario the Smiths don't actually make it this week. Right? And that happens too. And so then that person just takes that note off there. The gift is still all fine, and he's ready to use it for the next time. But then he could also follow up, right? I was expecting the Smiths and they weren't here. So it might be appropriate to pick up the phone and just call them and say, hey, I know life happens, man, no worries. But we're going to be here next weekend, and I'd love the chance to get to meet you. Maybe you drop them an email or a text message, but you just want to make sure that they know that you were expecting them and that you want them back, right? Like that's, all of our churches have a mission that calls us to help that person to get connected. And so I think we have to live into that mission. We can't just have these mission statements that are these beautiful words on a wall, but instead we have to live into them. And I think this is one of the most actionable ways that we can do it, is to just love on our neighbor. And that means when they don't show up, we need to be there to reach out for them and give them just a little bit of encouragement. Make sure that they know that we were ready and we will be ready, and we can't wait to meet them next week.
So there was this other idea that you're talking about. I think it was the third big idea, is that it changes. You said it changed their mindset going forward with your church and just how their relationship is. And I think one of the examples you gave me is like, you could email them a link to the actual sermon, or I mean, there was a whole, you just rattle off all these messages that were done for you. Can you share a little bit about that? What's that all about?
Yeah, so I think that's going to be part of your guest follow-up experience, right? So if someone, they plan their visit and they actually show up, they've already connected with someone who texted them saying, hey, awesome, you planned your visit. I'll be here. Hope you stop by the hospitality booth. Like, there's already a little bit of a relationship starting there, but that's just the start, right? So actually, whether they show up or not, we want to continue that, right? There needs to be two paths. One where they did show up, and now we're going to follow up and we're going to encourage them to come back week after week after week. And so that takes time, right? Like, the idea that someone who had a life pattern of not coming to church is going to show up on Sunday and now they're just going to start coming every Sunday. Like, yes, it happens from time to time, but that's not the normal path. And so I think we, as the church, we now have a responsibility to do guest follow-up in ways that are much more time consuming, much more challenging to actually pull off, so that we can still be effective. And so that means we have to do like 6 weeks of follow-up. So it's not enough to just either send an email or send a form letter to them. Like, those times are long past. Put them on your email newsletter. Like, that doesn't cut it anymore. Instead, we need to do personal follow-up with them. And what that means is we have to send them some emails where we're thanking them for worshiping with us, letting them, asking them if they had any questions, giving them links to our Facebook page, getting them connected with people. Right? Like, that's really what we're trying to do. Is we want to befriend this person, because if we can do that, if they can start to say, man, that Tyler, man, he was really cool. Like, I think we kind of hit it off with him. When they start to say that, now they start to say we instead of them, right? Now they start to become a part of this church. And when they become a part of the church, that's when their life transformation can start to happen. And so that's what we have to do, is to have that system in place where we're going to be able to follow up with them via email, via text message. We're going to write those handwritten notes that I was talking about. You know, handwritten notes are a craft that is like just disappeared. No one does it anymore. And that's the exact reason we need to do it. Right? Like, it's a pain in the rear, right? Like, everybody hates sitting down to write. Some of us are really good at it. I'm not one of those. So if I'm going to write a thank you note, it's going to be because somebody or some machine like Text in Church tells me to. Yeah. It's like, hey, Tyler, Kenny was a first-time guest on Sunday. Write him a note, and actually, here's a sample you can template off of. Oh, okay, I can do that. And then you can send those to a volunteer. Now they can just start writing those out. Or maybe it's
I didn't even think that. So even in that automation, you could actually pre-write a couple different variations that the volunteer staff can. I didn't even think about that. That's a great idea.
Because if you don't, right, that's one more roadblock. So that volunteer had every intention of doing it, and they're like, I just couldn't remember. I couldn't think of what to say, and so I just didn't get around to it. Right? It's just this excuse they had, and we want to take away all those excuses. And that's not just knocking on volunteers. We all do that, right? So we want to spend some time, write that handwritten note, write that email, write that text message perfectly. Do it one time perfectly. And then we're going to leverage that, and that'll be a part of our automated workflow. So now every time we have a first-time guest, every time someone plans a visit with us, we're then going to use that perfect message as a conversation starter, right? So we're going to send that out at the exact right time to the right person with the right message. And then when our plan works, they're now going to reply back. And so a lot of people will say, like, well, Tyler, how do I know if Text in Church is working?
Yeah.
The way you'll know is when you put someone into a first-time guest follow-up system and it sends out the messages, you don't even know that it's happening because it just works 24/7. It'll be the best employee you have on your team. And when those messages are going out, you're going to start to get replies. And so you'll get replies like, Actually, we can't make it on Sunday. My wife's mother is in the hospital, so we're driving down to Texas. That's a ministry moment. Or maybe it's actually we're going to the Royals game, and so we're going to miss church. Okay, that's not what we want to hear, but that's a ministry moment, because what we're not interested in actually getting them to show up to church right away. Like that's a goal. That's part of what we're doing, but we just want to build relationship with them.
Relationship. Yes,
And
it's
so
relationship.
so now all of a sudden I can start talking to you about the Royals all day long. Like, you're now my people, right? So whatever it is, we just want to relate with them. And so these are just conversation starters so that we can build relationship, befriend them, knowing that the end game is, yes, we want them to be a part and a contributing member of our church community. But that's not the first step, right? The first step is getting them to know and like and trust us. And then once we do that, when they feel known and noticed and loved, now they're a part of our tribe. And that can be a really, really powerful way of thinking about it. Is when you're building your first time guest follow-up system, your goal is not to get people to come back. And that's totally counterintuitive. Your goal is to build relationships, and building relationships will bring people back.
I love it. I love that domino effect. Now, you showed us a church website and the plan your visit module there. Do we need to use your website, or does that plan your visit? Tell us, like, do I have to buy into this whole system, et cetera?
No, so you can use whatever website you want. It's actually just a little snippet of code that sounds, I probably just lost half the people listening. That's okay. Come back with me. There's just a handful of steps that you'll go through, and you just select the options that you want to turn on and off. We'll build it to match your branding. We can add your logo, add your video. Those are all just little simple steps that you'll add in there. And then the final one is add the snippet of code to your website. And so what that means is whoever develops on your website, they're literally going to copy and paste. They're going to go to your website. They're going to go into the header tag, which anyone who develops on a website knows exactly what that means. It's over my head, but everyone else knows what that is. And they just hit paste, and then they hit save, and boom, it starts working. So like it is really, really simple. We also have a spot inside Texan Church where you can just add in your web developer's email address and hit send, and it'll just send them the instructions so they can do it. Yeah. It should take less than 30 seconds for a web developer to do. It literally is very simple.
Doesn't matter if I have a WordPress site or a ministry design site or a Wix site. It doesn't matter. Whatever site.
No, it doesn't matter at all, because all we're doing is just injecting that one little piece of code that then takes care of everything else. And so now you'll not only have that form on your website, and you can have your buttons, you can have the sticky bar at the top, you can have the chat bubble, you can add all those things as you wish. You get to customize that. But then it will not only just provide that on your website, but then it will gather their information, it'll add them into Texan Church, and then it will queue up your automated workflow steps. Okay. So it literally takes it from the very beginning all the way through to the very end, where you're actually building relationships with folks.
Okay. And then lastly, what's the experience of the churches that started using this thing? Like, what is it? Just, oh, we'll see a couple of extra visitors? Is it, I'm going to get 10,000 of my city residents to show up next week? Like, set the expectations for me is after we start using this thing.
Yeah. So no, it's not a silver bullet. It's not going to have 10,000 people show up unless you have millions of people visiting your website, right? So that's the caveat, is it doesn't bring people to your website. What it does is, for those folks that are at your website, at your church's digital front door, and they're knocking, you're now there to answer, right? So now you can have this conversation with them. So no, it's not a silver bullet. It doesn't solve all of the problems that your church might have from a website perspective. However, what it does do is it will now engage with your visitors that are on your website. And we all have them. We have people going to our website today that we're never going to know they were there. We don't know who they were. We don't know if they'll ever be back. We have no way of contacting them. There's nothing else we can do. However, if we do have a form to gather their info, now we can find out who they are and we can engage with them. So it's helping that person who's like just thinking about, they're teetering on the idea of, should I check out this church? We can just nudge them across that finish line and say, yeah, you should, and here's why. And now we can have conversation. So that is the major point there.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I love the fact that you guys are continuing to innovate on this front and learning. I've had conversation with you where you're seeing what churches are doing in the trenches, learning from that, and trying to figure out how to improve it and bring technology around it. So absolutely fantastic. Now, if someone wants to actually get a hold of that Plan Your Visit, to see the demo or
Yeah.
actually ask questions or learn more about it, what's the best way for people watching today to actually explore it or refer someone else on their team, right? Someone might be saying, oh,
Yeah.
my connections person needs to watch this, or my pastor needs to look at this. What's the best way for them to take the next step?
Yeah, just go to our website, texanchurch.com, and from there you'll have opportunities to engage with us. And so you can chat with our team, and we'd be happy to walk you through that. We do live demos every week. We want to walk alongside you and help you in this journey, help you to be more effective at engaging with your community. And we're all in on this, right? So if there's anything that we can do to be helpful to you, to serve you, all you have to do is just click that little chat bubble, and our team is there to help.
Awesome. There's so much to learn from you every time we sit down. The strategies that you have, and I really think your company is one that teaches strategies for engagement, not just offering the technology.
Yep.
Would you come back in the future and just share with us some other lessons and things that you're learning and best practices?
Kenny, anytime I get a chance to chat with you, count me in. I appreciate the conversation.
Awesome. Well, everybody here, if you've been watching, we would love to hear from you. If you actually have a Plan Your Visit function on your website, how is that going for you? I think it would be helpful for us to chime in the chats, in the comments, and almost show social proof to other church leaders that we all should be putting Plan Your Visit stuff on your website. And this texanchurch.com option is just wonderful. It's seamless. They've tested it. Stress tested it against tons of churches that are using it every single week. And it's just one of those things, I think, that's so interesting. And it's one of those things, like I said, if you need a give button, you need analytics, you need a place to opt in, you need something like this to actually offer your visitors a way to engage before they even walk in the door. So Tyler, thank you so much for stopping by. Everybody else, we'd love the reason why we brought Tyler on today is because you told us you wanted something like this. So we want to hear your feedback, your comments, and your input. Simply email us or check us out on social and send us a direct message. We'd love to bring on other guests and other specialists to bring on, even for Tyler and Texan Church. Let us know what you want to know about texting, about follow-up, about engagements through technology, and we can offer up maybe even a Q&A or an AMA session with Tyler. But that's the way.
Awesome.
We're doing this for you. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for visiting churchtechtoday.com. We'll catch you here next time for the next interview.